name is Nagi Zanadi. I'm from sunny St. George and representing the remaining 14 counties of the state. And we would like to excuse Commissioner Kramer, who is out of country on assignment. Carlos, would you please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carlos Braceras, I'm the Executive Director of the Department of Transportation. Would you like the rest of the team to introduce themselves?
Yes, please.
Shane and Terry, you want to start off, and then the smart folks, just let's rattle it off as you go.
I'm Shane Marshall, Deputy Director of Engineering Operations.
I'm Terry Newell, Deputy Director of Planning and Investment.
Charles?
Charles Stormont, I'm the Director of Right-of-Way.
Diane McGuire, and I'm here with the Board of Division Planning.
Ready?
Rex Harris from Region 1.
Chris Peterson, Region 1.
Blackrock Structures.
Ivan Marwood, Director of Program Planning.
Rob?
Rob White, Director of the Traffic Management Division.
Bob Kelly, I'm the State Coordinator. Ryan Adams, Region 2.
Randy Clark, Project Development.
Lisa.
Lisa Wilson, Region
Troy Peterson, Region 2.
Bob Clayton, Region 3.
Bob Miles, Director of Traffic Safety.
Please.
Grant Potter, UDOT Communications.
Zach Whitney, UDOT Communications.
Mark Holden.
At this time, I would like to also recognize Bridget Mendel from our partner from the Federal Highway Department, and who will have the opportunity to speak to us later. Yes, she introduced herself. Let's see, we have a special guest in our midst this morning, my dear friend, our dear friends, and my mentor and great leader of the community and state of Utah, Commissioner Ken Middleton. Welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to come back and get your gavel so I can sit there and be comfortable?
You're doing great now. You come on.
Thank you. Wonderful job you've done for the commission. Thank you for your leadership, for the service that you rendered. Let's see, just the house rules, if you don't mind, for those of you here to attend our meetings, I would like to kindly ask you, as respect to your fellow men, ourselves and yourselves, turn off your pagers, pacemakers, to keep this peace. And those of you who will have the opportunity to come before commission, please state your name and the capacity you serve in the community or as a public. And please speak to the mic, because this gets recorded and broadcast to thousands, right?
Millions.
Millions. And I think the address that they have given me is going to be the broadcast at youtube.com/Utah DOT. That's the address. So, and also just be brief in your statements and don't repeat the same thing's been said before. And please be kind. Okay? We're here to help you. We are your friends. And we have nothing except just trying to make sure everything's taken care of for your communities. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to invite Mayor Nguyen to come forward and as a whole city to welcome.
Chairman and Commissioners, Executive Director Braceras, we are so happy that you are here today, and welcome to our beautiful, beautiful city. And yes, you didn't see the bull this morning. The bull has been captured back, and he's in the pen where he needs to be. We're all safe this morning. I do want to recognize too that we have two of our county commissioners here today, Commissioner Bittner and Commissioner Bateman. We also have Grantsville City Mayor Marshall here today. Appreciate him. We also have Representative Doug Sagers. We work very well together, elected officials here in Tooele County, and I really welcome them and are happy that they are here today. We support each other. I also would like to just let you know of our appreciation for you. We recognize the work that you are doing here in our county. We do recognize that. And it is so empowering for us. We went on the tour yesterday to see all of the things that are going on, that we may be able to tell our constituents about those things that you are doing for us. And it just helps to build those relationships, and we do appreciate it very much. I also have sitting there in front of you today just a small token of our appreciation for your attendance here today. We have a little Tooele City mug. It is filled with the official candy of the Tooele City Mayor administration. And there is a real important reason why it is M&M's, 2 reasons. The first is it is chocolate. That is very important, that it is chocolate. But the second is, thank you to one of my staff members who helped me to recognize this, that when you look at an M&M and there is an M, the M is for mayor. But if you turn it upside down, it's a W, Mayor Win. So it is my official candy. My office has a dispenser and also several packets of candy, so everybody that visits my office walks away with a bag of M&Ms. So we are very appreciative that you're here today. Thank you very much, and if there is anything that we can do for you, please feel free to contact us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for M&M and MW. Thank you. Representative, would you please, do you have anything to say? Representative, do you have? Yes, please.
I just want to know that people in Tooele County sincerely appreciate all you've done for us in the last couple of years. It's been marvelous. Improvements to SR 38, working relationship with Carlos and with the commission. You guys are incredible. You recognize our needs. I know as a legislator in the budget process, you have a tough job. Projects needed far exceed our ability to fund them. I wish that were not the case, but as Commissioner Holbrook will recall, that's just reality. Midvalley Highway, again, thank you. That'll provide a huge amount of relief for congestion in our valley. I was going to say Grantsville, let Mayor Grantsville speak to that. The Blackrock bridge replacement, again, a huge thing that's going to affect our valley. One of my biggest concerns at the present time, and it's kind of a sleeping giant, I believe, is the inland port. And the impact it's going to have on I-80 and the bottleneck between milepost 99 and what I call 21st South, I guess it's 201. There's a lot of sleep over that one, to be honest. Yesterday, I had a chance to talk briefly with Carlos, Director Braceras.
Thank you.
Familiarity, I apologize. About what I believe is $6 million fixed, $100 million problem. And that's to provide auxiliary lanes on I-80 from, again, milepost 99 down to 201. $6 million project. It'd provide 2 additional lanes, one going east, one going west, where most of our traffic congestion is right now. People will slow, trucks will slow if you're going towards 21st South. Once you get past there, it's not too bad, unless there's an accident. Then, as everyone knows, it's very difficult. I'm going to request funding for that project in this year's budget. I hope that's appropriate. If it is not, I wish you'd tell me. But I think it would really help us in Tooele Valley and I-80 be a little bit more safe, a little bit more fluid in the transportation. Again, thank you so very much for all you do. The legislature appreciates it. And I was mayor here a long time ago. I thought I had the worst job in the world, but maybe you guys do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioners, mayors, would like to come forward, please?
Welcome. Mayor Wynn talks about the M&Ms. Well, you don't have to turn them upside down in Grantsville. It is Mayor Marshall. On behalf of Grantsville, we'd like to welcome you to the suburbs of Grantsville. I tease Mayor Wynn about that occasionally. I apologize that I wasn't able to be on your tour yesterday as we was doing a bid opening. As it's not been a surprise to anybody, we're getting ready to do our Main Street project, putting a new water and sewer line down the road. We had our bid opening yesterday, and with the way construction has been, we were kind of delightfully surprised. The bids come in very close to where we needed them. The water was just a little bit over, the sewer is a little bit under. So we'll be able to complete this project on the timeline that has been laid out, and we appreciate the commissioners' help in this. We also appreciate UDOT and their support and allowing us a little variance to be able to get started. We will start this project the first week of October is where it's currently scheduled to start. And we anticipate being able to do the first phase and being completed by Thanksgiving, weather permitting. And we appreciate them allowing us a small variance on the temperature to allow us to go a little farther. We know that we're a growing community, and I'm sure you've seen that yesterday. Commissioner Zanotti, I can find you a pothole on Main Street if you'd like, but we're gonna replace all of them when we get this sewer line in and the water line and put the storm drainage in. But just be with the citizens of these valleys here, of all of these communities. We appreciate the interest that you've shown in us and understanding that we do have some unique issues and we appreciate your support in trying to help us resolve some of them. So just wish to say thank you, and we appreciate seeing you here.
Thank you, Mayor Marshall. For those of you who still have potholes in your cities and the streets, if we don't get there first, just remember there's a word of counsel, there's a certain pizza company offers service if you order pizza from them, okay?
Commissioners, I recognize that this is unusual. I seldom get the last word of the political people here, so thank you. I want to echo what has been said, and especially remind you how great it is to have the Midvalley Highway project approved and in gear right now. We think that's tremendous because it's going to make a significant difference to us. A little over 75% of our population who is working commutes every day through that pinch point. And so that makes it very challenging for us. And I echo what Representative Sager said. We will appreciate your interest and attention. One thing that hasn't been well mentioned is we're working on another project called the Oker Expressway, which will take our road above the railroad tracks all the way from 201, exit 99, into Tooele, so we'll have an alternate route. I think it was 3.5 years ago I talked to Carlos and he said, well, this is what you have to do. You have to get the land surveyed, you have to get the land purchased so we can put the Midvalley Highway in. So we're using that same approach for the Oker connection so that when we're able to fund that we will have a place for it to go immediately, and that's our goal. We couldn't have done it without Diane. I don't know how you, and I hope you never get rid of her. She's terrific, and Carlos as well, and so. Oh my goodness, she's here, isn't she? That's great.
That's hard to do.
I'm not sure where her halo is, but you know she does an excellent job, as well as the rest of the group here. It's been a pleasure for me just to get well acquainted with you, to feel your spirit and your interest in us, and so we appreciate that. Hope that you'll continue to do that, because we're the overflow for Salt Lake right now, and we'd remind you we're closer to the airport than South Jordan is, so it's a great opportunity here. Thanks again. Hope you'll come back and visit Tooele again. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now we open to the other public. If they have any concerns, any suggestions, any comments, please come forward now.
My name is Don Silva Sr., and I live, well, my address is 809 East Main Street, Grantsville, Utah, but I don't live in Grantsville. I live on Highway 138, the first place in the county. Hauling trucks going through town and traffic there, it's a 40-mile-an-hour zone. I've been to the state road, I've been around, there's no signs in my area, and everybody thinks that the Maverick is where the 40 miles starts. It don't. It starts down by Sheep Lane. And I just want something done about it. And the thing is, they put that cable little guardrail the window over, that probably cost $500,000. And it probably cost $500 to put 2 speed limit signs up, so, you know, I'd like to get something done about it. You know. And I don't know how many of you ever had a kid run over though and almost killed. Well, it happened to me. One of my little boys, 8 years old, when he was 8 years old, on his bicycle. And it just through there is wide open. The trucks, there's nothing done about it. You know, and I want to see something done.
Okay.
And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Commissioner, we do try to patrol the area, but it is outside of the city limits. We do go down there, as what he's really asking for is some speed limit signs, and we've had some discussion with the highway patrol to try to help monitor that as well. But he is correct, there is no speed limit signs, and so you're right at the very edge of the community, and it's kind of like, well, here's the Bonneville Raceway, and let's get to Salt Lake so we can get into the pinch point over at Lake Point. So we'd appreciate it. Brian said he could probably handle a couple of speed limit signs. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any more public comments? Seeing none, we will proceed. At this time, we would like to invite our dear friend Brigitte Mendel. She said to me yesterday she has a lot of good news.
She always brings the good news.
Well, that's why she's here.
Good morning, Brigitte Mandel with Federal Highway Administration. And yes, as is tradition now, when Ivan's away, I do get to bring the good news, so I'm happy to be here. On August 30th, Utah received over $45 million in additional FY18 obligation limitation. So this will allow for over $45 million to go to projects this year. The money will need to be obligated by September 25th. That's the really big news. We also, on September 10th, UDOT received $1 million in Accelerated Innovation Deployment Program funds. This is to go towards their Intelligent Design and Construction Program, and those funds must be obligated within 12 months. On September 10th, UDOT was awarded just over $111,000 in Sharp 2 funds for deploying the freight demand modeling and data improvement product. Using this data will help UDOT better identify highway system choke points, time of day congestion, and congestion speeds in conducting assessments of truck travel times and lost productivity. On September 5th, a notice of funding opportunity was released and published in the Federal Register for the Competitive Bridge Program. I had mentioned that this would be coming last May. The notice is now out. There is $225 million available for replacement or rehabilitation of rural bridges. Utah is eligible for the program, and submissions are due to Federal Highway within 90 days of the notice of publication in the Federal Register. The last item I have is that the ferry boat national census is underway. The information that's collected from this census is used by Federal Highway to deploy program funds. So ferry boat operators are required to put their funds in, their data in the census in order to be eligible for the funds. And that information needs to be completed by September 28th. And that's all I have for you today.
Any questions from the Commission? Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Troy Peterson to do the local area presentation for Region 2, please.
Good morning. I'm Troy Peterson with Region 2. Thank you for the opportunity to come in here and showcase some of the awesome projects that we have that Region 2 folks have been working on, and I'd like to just give you a short little update on those. So let's see if I can make this thing work today. Well, the first project I wanted to talk about is one of our TIF projects is the Bangerter 4 Interchanges. As you recall, this was to construct freeway type interchanges at 5400 South, 70th South, 90th South, and 114th South. This was a $220 million project, and currently we are about 90% complete with that project. If you remember, about a year ago, November of last year, we finished up 70th South, and we are currently, actually earlier this last summer in July, we finished grade separating all the other locations, and they're currently working on the cross streets, improving the curb and gutter, the roadway, signing, striping, all the remaining efforts there. So moving forward, we look at by about the middle of October, we should be done with 114th, and then 5400 South and 90th South will complete shortly after that in November. So that project's winding up, and we're really excited for that project. One of the things that's really interesting about this is our traffic group has been monitoring speeds on this corridor, obviously before construction, and they know we're not complete yet. We still have some lane restrictions on there, but what we're seeing is speeds before construction were about 40 miles an hour for that project limits, and what we're seeing today is around 48, so we're seeing an increase of about 8 miles per hour and that's in the AM and PM peak hours. So it was obviously making a big impact to people's travel times and congestion through there. So we're excited about that project getting completed. So one thing just to keep in mind, Bangerter Highway does move about 58,000 vehicles a day. So you know, that's a significant improvement for us out there.
The moving pictures are really cool. That's a unique thing. That's great.
Yeah, I wish I knew how they did that. I'm going to have to defer to our PI group on how they put those in the presentations, but they are very nice to see. Thanks to Heather for making that work this morning. Next project I'd like to highlight is our I-15 southbound project. It's currently under construction. That's from SR 201 to 123rd South. Additionally, with that project, there's going to be some widening on 7200 South from the I-15 out to Bingham Junction Boulevard. This project you'll see is a $180 million project. And this project is scheduled to be complete next fall in 2019. And just by scope-wise, we're looking to, for this project, they're adding southbound lanes, widening for southbound lanes, and then there's some, as part of that project we'll be widening there's two railroad structures, one is UTAs, one UPNR, that we widen on 72 there as well, to accommodate that widening on 72. Additionally, there's some modifications at the south interchange of I-15 and 215 that'll help improve traffic flow and some of the merging points and leaving points that are currently there, and make that a little nicer for the area. Like I mentioned, that's scheduled to be completed next fall. On the heels of that southbound project, we have our northbound project coming, which will begin next spring. We've got construction we should have a contractor on board with construction beginning in May of 2019. The scope of that project is to add auxiliary lanes from Bangerter Highway to about 1,000 south, or 10,000 south. This is obviously going northbound. And then from the 10,000 south to I-215, there'll be a CD system that we're adding to that location. So if you're wanting to get to I-215, you'll have to exit onto the CD system at 10,000 south to get to 215. Should improve a lot of the safety issues we've got in that area in terms of a lot of weaving, and help clean up delays and safety issues of that interchange. That project's about a $150 million project. Oh, and right now we're currently in the environmental phase for this one, and that should be completed this coming November. So we're moving right along with that one. I'm excited to get that one going as well. A lot of going on I-15 over the next few years. Let's see. Next project we want to highlight here is our Mountain View Corridor. We've talked about this one a lot. This project currently is scheduled to be going into construction next spring as well. It's about a $495 million project. We'll basically be constructing 2 freeway lanes from 4100 South to SR 201, or actually, sorry, California Avenue, and we'll have service interchanges at SR 201. So excited about that one as well. Like I mentioned, that should be starting construction next spring and be finished by about the fall of 2021. So another big project, and we're excited for that one as well. I know this next project, Blackrock, I know there's a lot of interest in getting this project moving forward. We're moving forward with this one. We're excited for this one as well. I know we've already been under construction doing some improvements out there already. I know we've got our at milepost 101. It's one of the structures that we're going to be replacing. And there's already, you may have noticed some of the work that's going on there already. I've got the surcharge in there, preparing for the rest of that work that's going on there, letting the settlement occur there. But as well as the 101, we've got bridge replacement milepost. I'm sorry, that was milepost 99. I messed that up. But milepost 101 is over the railroad, and that is another project. We drove those both yesterday on the tour. You may remember seeing the boards we had up there representing the new grade that we're looking at there.
What is the required clearance over the railroad?
I'm not sure if I know the answer to that. I know that, Carmen? 23?
23?
23 feet, 6 inches.
6 inches.
That last 6 is very important for that.
It could be.
It is, yes. So like I mentioned, we're going to replace both structures at milepost 99 and 101. Let's see here. One thing I'd like to mention, in both of these bridges, we'll be widening those to accommodate future growth and traffic, as well as the structure at milepost 101 is where SR 36 and I-80 meet. We're going to be also lengthening that bridge to accommodate any future project of maybe extending the SR 201. So if that project becomes a reality, we have the opportunity to fit that in. So we're making sure we accommodate that now, so we don't have to come back later. So one of the things I'd like to highlight on this project is, we do have later in the agenda an item to look at requesting some additional funds for this project. So maybe want to highlight a couple of those items of why those additional costs are coming in. And one of the things that we're looking at in working with UP&R, we've mentioned that the clearance at 23.6 is something was a little bit more than what we were initially planning. So we have to accommodate reconstructing some of the roadway, because we don't have to raise the elevation of I-80 about 10 feet to accommodate that clearance over the structure, or over the railroad tracks, I'm sorry, which will require some additional reconstruction and tie the roadway back in. You can see from the picture, it's about half a mile's worth of reconstruction of the pavement. And so that's had a significant impact to the scope of this project, as well as there are some structural components related to walls that, in working with the railroad, there's certain types of walls that they require within within the area around the railroad. We typically use MSC walls, and we have to use a different, what they call a T-wall. I don't know all this.
Maybe when you use your acronyms, maybe explain that.
The MSC wall? Okay, the MSC wall is a mechanically stabilized earth. Basically, it's It's we run with geogrid or reinforcement of some sort. We take the dirt and we wrap it with fabric and build up the layers of the earth to create the embankment there, and then we use like a precast wall or panels as the face of the retaining walls.
Cost-effective retaining wall.
Yeah, and that's our typical type of wall, and that is not one that the railroad would accept. They're looking for what they call a T-wall, and I'm going to apologize because I don't know the specifics behind a T-wall. I just know that it costs a lot more than our MSC walls. So, and I'm sure Carmen knows all the answers on a T-wall, but I'm not going to put her on the spot on that one.
Troy, you also position yourself for the future expansion of the I-80?
Correct, yes. We're widening that structure as well to accommodate the future lane when that time comes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Please.
Are these new regulations from the railroad? And this, I mean, we just talked about this for one particular bridge, but what else is out there that we may be facing?
That's
Carmen.
Carmen, you
Carmen.
Yes.
Come on up, Carmen, and introduce yourself. They won't see you on the World Wide Web.
That's right.
Maybe I don't have to talk later now, since I can talk right now.
Oh, this is out of order. You
No,
can
no,
talk-
this is great.
We'll talk about it later. Okay.
So, the clearance for the railroad has always been 23/6. Blackrock had never had that clearance before. When that came into a requirement, I'm not exactly sure. When the original bridge was put in place, so that was 60s, I believe.
Yeah, but UP had to raise the grade of their tracks during the flooding we had in '83, and so that's where we lost the clearance with that bridge.
Thank you. And so what we tried to do with this project now is we had to raise I-80 to accommodate the clearance. And right now, the way the bridge is laid out, we are within UP right away. So what we had to do was single span, like from one support to the next support, and that also raised it because then the depth of your structure gets a lot deeper when you make that a lot longer. And so that really is why I-80 had to be raised. And another criteria is we wanted to make it wide enough to accommodate the future lane of I-80, so we wouldn't have to be back there and widen it. UP, the new requirement that you're referring to with the walls is new to UP. Okay. They no longer allow MSE walls within 50 feet of their right-of-way. And we tried to shorten that span as much as we could, which is why that wall type had changed and is a more expensive wall type than we would typically use.
Great. So we're not necessarily, because of these different variables, this isn't something that we're looking to have to do in other parts of the state?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Not on a retroactive basis, but if we do have a project similar to this in a location next to UP, we would follow the same requirement.
Yes, we would have
Go back
to.
and make those changes outside of the known project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen.
Another item that this is related to MOT, our maintenance of traffic. Earlier this summer, we had a situation where we had to go out and prepare some potholes on that structure over the railroad. And so we had to take a lane of I-80 eastbound in order to do that work. And if you recall, I know the residents in Tooele will recall that week or those few days that we were down that lane was very impactful and caused a lot of heartburn. So we asked our,
The nicest thing they said.
Yeah, there were quite a few comments. And so initially our plan was to look at doing a bridge slide, and in that bridge slide there would have been some impacts to I-80, which we had to take I-80 down to a one lane for anywhere from 23 to 58 days, so some of that right. And after that experience with the potholes, we found that to be a little bit unacceptable, so we asked the team to go back and relook and reevaluate to find out that there's another solution. There is a solution out there we're looking at right now of doing a temp bridge. basically a temporary bridge they'll put out there and allow us to keep both lanes of traffic that are out there currently throughout construction. So that's another item that will be playing into that request later on. And yeah, I guess the last item I just want to add on there is, and we are seeing some escalation in costs of labor and materials. And so those are all playing into some of the requests you'll see later on. Let's move on to the next. If there are any questions, I'll move on to the next project. Oh, there's a couple of animations here, little pictures we have of some renderings of what the bridge will look like. You notice that they're widened out. And that's the SR36 I-80 exit 99 Lake Point interchange. Next project, Midvalley Highway. I know this one's very exciting project for the Tooele County. Right now we're finishing up design and environmental on this project. We anticipate advertising this for construction and have someone on board it next year, 2019. This project is a $74.4 million project. It obviously was funded through TIF project, and we're excited for this project to get underway. This project basically will build about 4.5 miles of roadway from I-80 over to SR-138, and it ties in roughly around Sheep's Lane. And we'll be building a lane of traffic in each direction. We'll have full shoulders and with a separated median as part of that construction.
Question?
Yes.
Please. I understand the other direction that actually kind of winds back into Tooele the other way. So, you know, we crossed that highway from Grantsville yesterday, but it continues on and it goes kind of the south or southeast from there to...
Oh, the proposed alignment for the next phase?
Yeah, just Midvalley Highway, so I know it comes right, but is that where it goes, then it crosses that highway and continues where that Sheep's Lane is all the way down, or what does it do when you get... So going south from where it hits the highway from Grantsville, what does it do there?
So the alignment on that I think is still somewhat undetermined, but it does follow that
it could kind of go back, okay.
Yeah, I think there's some efforts that need to go on.
Commissioner has
Yes, please, come forward.
I was just trying to, I saw where between there and there, I was just wondering what eventually it could be done going to the other direction.
We appreciate your interest in that. The Midvalley Highway is 3 sections or 3 phases. The first phase is the one we're working on currently. The second phase is the middle part between where the Sheep Lane intersection is with, as currently planned, and that will go over to 112. And then from there, the third phase would be from 112 back over to 36. So it'll be going around. We were a little nervous about opening up an EIS, and so that's why we haven't got those other 2 projects, other 2 phases started. We will do that. We'll probably complete the 3rd phase first, and then come back and do the 2nd phase because of the way the growth and development will occur in the old, or in the Miller property. There's 900 acres there that we're going to develop. And originally it was scheduled to go through the middle of that, and we think the other alignment through Sheep Lane, we're going to look at that very carefully for that 2nd phase. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just trying to say long range. I knew where it came, but just where, if there are other plans to go another. Thank you.
There certainly are. We would. Well, what that does economically, the Midvalley Highway makes it so we're about 9 miles from the freeway instead of 12 like we are currently. And one person I talked to said that extra 3 miles would cost him and his organization about $300,000 a year just in fuel. And so when you put it in those terms, you recognize how important this is for our economic development.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Okay, so yeah, we anticipate this to be under construction next year, and with about a 2-year construction window to get that one completed. Next project I have on here is our Grantsville Main Street Rehab project. Mayor Marshall mentioned that earlier. They have a utility project going in and putting in some sewer and water lines. We've been coordinating with them heavily on the timing for that project, so that we would come after the installation of those to do our pavement job. Basically, this project is a 3-inch mill and fill, and right now we're scheduled to begin construction next summer, and should be done before the winter time comes. So next fall of 2019. It's about $3.6 million of funds to build that project. As one thing on this project, it's also got some of our transportation solutions money on that to help fix some drainage improvements along the Grantsville Main Street as well. So really important that they have those funds to be able to take care of some of the items that we have on here. And so this is a key project to address some of those. So, okay, another project we have is, we have a project that's coming, this one's not out, it's out for a little ways, 2021. This will connect the SR 138 from I-80 all the way to Grantsville Main Street. So the other piece of SR 138, that'll get a 3-inch mill and road mill and overlay as well. So basically we'll mill out 3 inches of asphalt, put 3 inches back. That's one of our rehab, our pavement preservation type
Question?
projects. Yes.
When you do a roto mill, do you have to add additional material to that, oil or anything? Or is it simply reheated and refused?
So on this one, this is actually they'll be hauling those roto tailings away. They won't be we're not recycling those on that project. But when they do the hot in place recycle, like we do on some other projects like we have going on SR 36, they do mix some of the oil in there to place that back in.
To get better adhesion for the...
Yeah, but on this particular project, there's not a hot in place.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
You bet. I missed one. We'll get that over here. SR 138 Grantsville to SR 36. Apologize, but this project is a $5.2 million project. This project is on basically from Sheep's Lane, where the Midvalley Highway ties into SR 138 over to SR 36. You may recall a few months ago there was a jurisdictional transfer that went through that approved to give this section of SR 138 over to Tooele County. This part of that agreement is our paving. One of the commitments we have to finish this 3-inch mill on this section of road as well. And this will happen in 2021. So right after the Mid-Valley project links up, this will come through as well, and that'll complete that commitment for that jurisdictional transfer. So, Commissioner Bartle, you mentioned the hot in place, that this SR 36 project from Faust out to Rush Valley. That's a $5.6 million project that we did the hot in place recycle on. And that basically they milled out 1.5 inches, added some material, some oil to it, recompacted it, and also added another 1.5 inches of new HMA on top of that for the full 3 inches on that project. HMA hot mix asphalt, I'm sorry. I'll get better at this.
I have yet to pass my test, so. We got sent the, 300 acronyms and stuff.
I probably used most of them today, right?
Flashcards, it doesn't.
Another pavement project we have out here is SR 36 from SR 73 to 3 O'Clock Drive, and that goes through the town of Stockton. This one is an 1.5 inch roto mill and overlay with hot mix asphalt. 3.2 million, I mentioned that. This also has some transportation solution funds on it. Actually, most of these projects do. SR 36 Faust to Rush Valley, we actually have safety money as well added onto that one. where we widened some shoulders, we added some rumble strips, upgraded some signs, and made quite a few improvements from a safety standpoint, as well as we added some transportation solutions funds to fix drainage issues out there as well. The SR 73 to 3 o'clock drive has some improvements as well to some drainage and some signs there in Stockton. So both those projects are recipients of transportation solutions funds. And the third one on this list of SR 73 from SR 36 to Utah County line, that also that's an $8.6 million project that it has traffic and safety funds added to that project as well, to widen the shoulders and to make some and add roll strips as well. That's another safety feature added to this project, and that one will go to construction next spring, so in 2019. Last project I have here is SR 138, and I already mentioned this one earlier, was the rehab from Grantsville out to I-80. So that was the last project I have to highlight from our standpoint.
Any questions from Troy?
You're going on.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Mayor Wynn and Mayor Marshall and commissioners, you can see already, commission knows about your pain, growing pain, and it's already UDOT spending the money. Somebody calculated all the number we're going to spend on community you have? A lot. So we are aware of it, and we will do everything we can. Okay? Thank you. Item number 6 on the agenda is Central Wasatch Commission, and we have Ralph Becker to do that presentation. No?
I do not see Mr. Chairman,
yes,
do you maybe want to do the UDOT scoreboard at this
Yes, we
point?
can. Okay. Let's do the scoreboard. Randy Park, I guess you first, and Robert Miles next.
Can you tell me a little bit where we're at? Heather, are you guiding us there? Stand away.
If you recall, go to the UDOT website, udot.utah.gov, go to the dashboard, and get to the report that Randy's working again.
Yep. Okay. Alrighty, so it's great to be here today to talk a little bit about the construction activity within the department. Right now we have currently 546 projects that are on the books to either be designed and built, or we're still planning to do. We'll advertise 12 of those within the next 60 days. And one thing in the department we're proud of is we advertise most of our projects on time. We're at 93%. And most of the projects that we do advertise late, we advertise not very late at all. So.
And that's late only on our timeline, right? That's
from what the schedule that we set.
Yeah, it's a schedule we set, and we made a big transition around the 2002 Olympics when our director Tom Warren said, "We will deliver what you say when we say we're going to do it," and we took that very serious. And we really, and the other thing that I think is very beneficial to the department, a lot of DOTs don't have around the country, is project management. We use project management. Troy is a great example of a program manager who manages all of our project managers. And so that's really, I think, the key to our success in delivering projects. So we've got about 24 projects that have advertised in the last month. You can see here what they are, and they're in all the regions. There's one that shows up in red, and that red always shows up as kind of that's a project that we did advertise late by a few months, and those things happen. One of our, we also work with our local governments, because the projects that go through our local governments that we have oversight of also shows up on these lists. And so we've done a lot of work this last month. This is a great chart, and the fact that it shows the projects that still haven't been advertised. They're in black. Projects are in red are the ones that were advertised late, and then the projects that are still to advertise are in that blue and purple color.
Randy, are you on? You talking about?
Oh yeah, I moved ahead. Sorry, it's something I can see. I don't want to admit that I can't see that very good, but I just know that when we get to December, that's really the high peak there. And so if I look here, I can see that's true with the light blue and the purple. And we really want to advertise most of our program in the winter. That's when the contractors have time to bid and to spend time getting ready. They also want to put out their bill of work for the next summer. And so you can see we'll advertise most of our projects from December through March. And that's our goal. And to our credit, really the project manager's credit and the folks at the region, they have really done a good job of now condensing all of these projects into this area. And so we measure those, and we can see what's coming up. We've got a lot going on here over the next few months. I don't know what that is. Okay. Contractor payments. Contractor, that's what I'd like to show you. This one. Let me see if we can get it to come up. For some reason it's coming up on my computer, but it's not coming up here. We currently have about $1.35 billion worth of work right now under contract with our contractors, and this equals 168 active projects that are going on right now. And so kind of just shows. I had a gentleman last night caught me in another meeting that I was in, and it was interesting to hear his perspective, because he loves to see construction because of the conditions of our roads here in Utah. And he pointed that out to me, because I was ready for him to let me have it, because he was actually late to a meeting that he was supposed to be to with me because of some construction. But he was really happy about, how the effort that we go through to build and the condition of our roadways. So you can see our contractor payments. July was our biggest month at about $100 million. We'll do a little less than that, about $85 million in August. We'll be about that same number in September and October. You can see that we're spending considerably more money this year than we did last year. Our program's bigger. You guys have approved a lot more projects with the bonding and the cash flow that we currently have. So that's been great. I'd like to say that I don't even know if I want to show you this one. I don't believe it. I think we're really good, but we're not that good. And so we'll have to figure out what's going on there and go from there. So anyway.
Things taken up on cost?
Things are, yeah, Commissioner Holbrook, they are. We're seeing about a 25% increase over the last year in asphalts, concretes, steel for bridges, roadway excavation, anything that's used. Well, I mean, it's hard to know where it all is now. We've seen about a 7 or 8% increase over all of the items, but the big items we use have really gone up. And most of them are based on energy. Okay. The other problem that our contractors are having, you may be hearing, is labor. Really hard to find good people out there with unemployment rate where it's at right now. So,
any questions from Randy?
No,
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Robert?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Robert Miles. I apologize. No, it's just a friend from the valley here.
It's part of the suburb.
Yes, sir. I apologize you don't get to see Jason's shining face this morning. You have to deal with me, but you have to make do with me, but I'm glad to be here with y'all. I'd like to talk a little bit about our zero fatalities metrics, where we're at with safety right now. We are currently running 94.2% on our metric, which is, we'd like to be at 100%. We have a few improvements we still need to make. since we met last time, we've reset our historic, so I will apologize quickly that we only have 5 weeks of data on here, but we finally figured out one of the problems we had with an algorithm that was scoring us erratically in the past. So this is where we've been at for the last 5 weeks, and this is a pretty good measure where we've been at for most of the summer at about 94. So the index is a combination of how we are doing on fatalities on our roadways, serious injury crashes on our roadways, crashes on our roadways, UDOT employee fatalities, UDOT employee injuries, and UDOT damage, or damage to UDOT equipment. And we'll show you how we're doing on each of those in just a moment.
And if the commission recalls, some of you were part of it, we went through a decision lens exercise to really weight those different elements that Robert talked about, and that weighting of those different elements builds to this index.
Correct. Okay, and here's the parts. On traffic fatalities, we are currently running, as of the data renewal this morning, 193 fatalities, which is right on our reduction goal for our 3-year average. So we've got 100% of our score in that area.
So we look back 3 years.
Correct.
Take a rolling average. Our target is a 2.5% reduction of that average.
And as of this morning, we were right on that. Again, we'd like to be ahead of that. We can't get to 0 soon enough, but that's where we're at this morning. Employee fatalities, we were at 0, and we have been for several years. We don't even really want to dig into that one too much more, but that's where we're at.
It seems like a particularly challenging goal when you think about the fact that we got more people on the road, more vehicles, more miles driven.
And that's one way that you can look at this metric. You can look at the rate per, the national measure is the rate per 100 million miles traveled, and we're still under 1 on that.
Yeah, we're closer to 0.9. We're between 0.8 and 0.9 at this point. And that's, Commissioner Barlow, that in and of itself represents a significant improvement from where we were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. I was looking at some numbers, and we were around 1.2, 1.3 back in the day. And so more people, and there are fatalities still occurring. We want them to go away. Not the people, but the fatalities. But the rate at which they're happening is dropping. Okay, serious injuries. As of our data run, I apologize. I and Randy are apparently having the same problem. I can't quite read that number. I believe it's 470. And it's 580 is our 2.5% reduction goal. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize, commissioners. I'm struggling with the red.
586 for the reduction, 470 for the action.
586 and 470. Tell you what, I won't try and impress you by reading the actual numbers from this point out. I'll just tell you we're below our performance goals.
With the right glasses, I can see it.
And we have to get really close.
It's a hard thing for me to admit. On the employee injuries, we're below our goal. Where we want to be, we're making progress on that and improving the safety of our workforce. But we still have room to grow. We still have room to improve. And so we're meeting 100% of our goal on that as of this morning. Traffic crashes, again, we're meeting our reduction goal on that. Again, there's way more happening than we want to have happen out there, but we're working forward on it. We are making some progress on our employee equipment damage. We peaked here in February, and we've been working our way back down, but we still have room to improve in that area. So that's part of what makes up that 5.8% of our goal that we haven't yet accomplished yet. So.
One number that I think is remarkable, most people don't realize, and you saw it in that last table, just the crashes. So in 2017, almost 56,000 crashes in the state. Give you an idea of magnitude.
Yep, we have, there's quite a few out there that happen. That's what we have for our report. Are there any questions you have about this area? Yes, sir.
So on the equipment one, is that, I presume, training type of people you hire? What do you do to try to, is that like things where equipment gets misused, or maybe, What would be equipment damage? What type of things are you talking about?
It can include that. It can include anything from, not inadvertently, being unaware of where you park and backing into something as you pull out of a stall. It could include being involved with in a traffic crash. What we're doing about that is training our employees, and we have a dedicated group of people in our employee safety group now that is working on this with our roads committees to establish best practices and lessons learned, even down to going through in-time training for activities that may happen during a specific day.
Okay.
And the regions themselves are really leading us in this effort, along with that group at the central office. But I think we've made a lot of improvements in this area. Having been in the department for 20 years, we've never had as good of a risk management approach as we have now, I believe.
They're all reviewed by a committee. We look for opportunities and where we need to make those improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions we can answer for you?
What a report on the 100 Deadliest Days.
Yes, sir. We recently closed the 100 Deadliest Days, which is the period of time between Labor Day and Memorial Day. We monitor that specifically because we find more fatalities happen in that period of time than any other time of year. This year we had 102 fatalities during that period of time, which is up from 90 that we had last year. I'm not particularly happy about that. I'm not proud of that. I hate to report that to you, but that is what's happened this year. Going into 100 Deadliest Days, we appeared to be well ahead of where we were on our fatality and crash rates. But this was particularly rough summer. July and August, we had an inordinate number of fatalities on our roadways, and we're digging into what's happening with those. We're paying particular attention to motorcycle crashes. We've been doing a lot of messaging on roadway behavior, as we always have with zero fatalities, but motorcycle crashes in particular have been hard. This year we had 14 more year to date than we had, which more than makes up for that 102, or increase from 90 to 102. So we're working with different groups on that. We're going to keep moving on it. It's a little bit of a setback, but it's not the end of the road. We will continue to improve.
Do you, I assume you do, but do you look at this data from, what's happening on the freeways versus what's happening on the rural roads, and how does that break up?
We do. We split it down and we try to, we dice it any way we can think of dicing it. Talking about motorcycles in particular, we've taken a look at the crash rates, and we've found that there's two particularly high levels of crashes, or indicators. There's two characteristics of motorcycle crashes that are really troubling. One is single vehicle crashes, which it's just the motorcyclist alone, and usually that has something to do with the way the motorcyclist is behaving, a health concern, the amount of training they've had, and so we're reaching out to folks about improving the training that motorcyclists can get or are encouraged to get. The other has to do with angle crashes, which if you think about people making a left turn, we've seen a lot of individuals on the roadway making a left turn in front of a motorcyclist. Either they fail to see them, or they are distracted in some other manner. But those are the two big types of crashes we have with motorcyclists that we're working on, and a lot of that leads to education.
Motorcyclists, when you're making that left, I think a lot of people have a hard time judging the speed of a motorcyclist. But every year, Robert, we publish a zero fatalities report that allows you to slice and dice it down to roads, county level, all the way through. But these numbers represent the data on every public road in the state of Utah, not just Utah roads. So this is every public road.
Correct.
Is there an increase in motorcycles being bought and utilized on the highways in Utah?
There is not. Well, let me rephrase that. We have taken a look at the registrations of motorcycles on the roadway, and there's a correlation between the number of fatalities and the number of registered motorcycles. But this year, that trend is not. It's not enough to take into account what's happened this year. If that makes sense. I wish I remember the number exactly, but it's somewhere around 60,000 motorcycles. Do you remember, Carlos, by chance? I can email that to you, Danny, the report that we put together on that. There is a correlation, but it does not account for what has happened this year. This year is above and beyond that. Okay?
Other than motorcycles, any new trends that you were seeing this year, or is it pretty consistent with other trends about the types of accidents and, that cause fatalities? Is it kind of the same things, or is there anything new that we're starting to see?
They're the 5 behaviors that we always hit, and I think that accounts for most of the things that happen on a roadway. Within those 5 behaviors, we've been particularly concerned with distracted driving. The Highway Patrol has been doing extra enforcement on that. I think we're just more aware of it in general. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. But it's not just that. It's, it's eating a hamburger, it's shaving, it's reading the newspaper, it's whatever it's going to be. There's 100.
Hey.
I eat the hamburger, but I don't put the makeup on.
To each their own.
Just don't tell.
But there are 100 different ways to be distracted out there, and the best thing we can do is focus on the task at hand. I mean, driving is not a risk-free
So it's the
activity.
same things that we've been dealing with for a while.
It is. We are particularly concerned about the distracted themselves.
Well, it's the scooter phenomenon that's taking place. Are we gonna create a category where we're gonna track these little fellows that are running around?
We are. They're redoing the crash forms, and they will be tracked. Maybe not as precisely as we would like, but they are a category unto themselves. We'll continue to work with Highway Safety Office on tracking.
Does the law require them to wear a helmet?
I do not believe that it does,
No.
but I'm not positive
Or
about that.
state law, that's why I'm asking. You don't see anybody wearing them.
They don't, no.
Some do, but you see an awful lot who don't.
Well, I can
It's a stupid thing, but
totally agree. Salt Lake City's very scary right now to walk around down Main Street and around. I can attest to that. I had a scooter run into my car was stopped. And that's distracted driving. The one thing that concerns me about that, and I'm glad we're involved in it, and Danny brought it up, is that the transportation person for Salt Lake City said they were going to the scooter places and asking them for their input on how to regulate it. And that seems to me like the worst place to do it, because it is every place. They're at the Capitol, they're on the state roads, or on the city road. No, they're not. They're on the state sidewalks, the city sidewalks. It's just a matter of time before somebody is seriously injured.
Well, they don't make any noise.
Well, I think
No,
there are a lot of
They do.
questions. There are a lot of questions on how to handle and how to try to manage these, but from a crash perspective, we are prepared to start tracking incidents that occur with
Yeah,
them.
and
So
I'm
we
not
have good
saying
data as we go.
we should do more, by the way.
So,
Looking at the legislature, Representative Sanders.
It is an issue, and we're well aware of that. I'm sure a solution is what we're looking at.
They had one of the both of the scooter companies at the
Right.
committee
At the
last
transportation, yeah.
month.
Well, I see where there's a couple more companies that are coming into town, so there's gonna be even more of them.
I don't think you can legislate against stupidity
It's
any more than you
difficult.
can
We try.
morality.
Well, I don't want to get into that conversation. But I do believe that there is a role for the legislature, because they have passed primary seatbelt laws, they have passed other things, and so I look to them for more guidance.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. Thank you.
right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, we still don't have anyone from the Central Wasatch Commission. Okay, we proceed with the next item. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Ralph Becker, who is the executive director for the Central Wasatch Commission, and just wanted to reach out, to provide information to the Transportation Commission about what's going on with the CWC, what they're working on. And so I'm sure he's apologizes for this. He wanted to come last month. He saw we were closer in Tooele this month, so this was what he was targeting. We may see him on the agenda, but there was no action.
Okay, item number 7, consent agenda, and including approval of the minutes.
I so move.
Second?
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussions? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 8, program development. Ivan, you're up.
He's got a lot of water, he's planning on a long stand.
No, it just sounds like I'm a Johnny Cash fan today, so just in case. Good morning, Commissioner. On the first item for today, Region 1 is requesting the approval to transfer $700,000 of state construction funds to SR 127. Oh, I'm sorry, let me. The mayor's just showing us. Just scroll down. Go ahead. Thank you. Okay. $700,000 of the state construction funds to the West Davis Corridor environmental study. It's currently funded at $35,000. These funds will be transferred from PIN 8021, which is currently in the project closeout status. With the construction of the West Davis Corridor in western Davis County, SR 127 is projected to increase traffic demand in the Syracuse area. We are requesting the approval to transfer $700,000 of state construction funds to SR 127 West Davis Corridor to 2000 West project as detailed.
Move for approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Thanks.
Okay. Any further discussions, questions?
Just a question.
Yes.
So, it was originally funded at 35,000 and we're asking for 700,000. That's a pretty dramatic difference. Maybe can you just help explain, has it changed dramatically?
The original $35,000 was just the region contingency funds. We essentially didn't know what the amount was that we were going to be using. This $700,000 is to get this environmental study going.
Gotcha.
We do have the project manager here. Rex, would you like to add anything else?
For both this item and the next item, we set the projects up with contingency funds because we knew we needed to have the projects on the books. And now we're wanting to move ahead with the environmental studies, so we needed to come to add the money to do the environmental studies that we need for both these projects.
Very helpful, thank you. It's just a big difference.
It is.
You have to think that you have to explain it.
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Add a little bit to that. This is technically the correct request because a PIN exists and we want to add money to the PIN. It would probably be better explained as a brand new project that we need $700,000 for. So it's technically correct, but to your point, that it's a new project and we just want to slip in $700,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next request is very similar to the first, as Rex mentioned. Region 1 is requesting the approval to transfer $230 of the state construction funds to do environmental study SR 193 4500 West to 3000 West project, which is currently funded at $300,000. These funds will also be taken from PIN 8021, which is currently in closeout. There's an associated map with this request. The motion needed for approval, we're requesting to approve this transfer of $230,000 of state construction funds to SR 193 4500 West to 3000 West project as detailed.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second on the number 2. Any further questions or discussions? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 3.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chair. Our next item, item number 3, is the Blackrock project, the bridge project that we've talked about on the tour and also this morning in the presentation. Region 2 is requesting to add $9.5 million to the I-80 structure replacement. It's currently funded at $27 million. The Blackrock and SR 36 project is in need of additional funds due to escalation construction projects, as Randy and has also discussed, and additional permitting requirements and MOT costs. This project is ready to award. The accelerated bridge construction methods are being used to reduce impacts to the Tooele and the residents.
Region 2 has identified $5.5 million of excess funds from the 215 project, 300 west to 201, 300 east to 201, and the remaining $4 million will come from the bridge program. And I apologize, on the fact sheet, the motion needed for approval states $10 million. It is correctly, to state correctly, approval to add a total of $9.5 million to this project as detailed.
So moved.
Second, we discussed this at length, so.
We have.
Good project.
Motion reflects the correction on the number.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further questions or discussion?
What's the completion date on this project? Project.
Fall of next year.
Fall of next year.
Fall of next year, good.
I like those phone friends. Great.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Merry Christmas, citizens of the Tooele County.
Thank you. Came early this year.
Yes,
I like that.
Thank you. Number 4.
Okay, item number 4, yesterday during the staff update meeting, we had a presentation on the connected vehicle and the data ecosystem. This is a new project. The purpose of the presentation is to request the Commission approve the funding of $8 million of state funds to phase 1 of the project to develop a partnership to develop the connected autonomous vehicle ecosystem. Would you like me to read through the...
It's up to the...
Yes,
we
Chair.
have-
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Yes, up to you.
We do have a presentation. I just wanted to make sure whether you wanted me to read through this. The contract will be with this ecosystem is a multi-phase, severable contract. The future phases exploring new technologies and border implementation of technologies developed in phase 1. Connected and autonomous vehicles show great promise in reducing congestion, improving mobility, and most importantly, improving safety. Automation shows the most promise to reduce the number of serious injury and fatalities, as a majority of current crashes are caused by human error. UDOT has several pilot projects in which CAV, the Connected Autonomous Vehicles technology, has been used. Over the past 4 years, UDOT has worked to deploy an operational connected vehicle corridor on Redwood Road in Salt Lake County, and another in Provo-Orem that is about to become operational. A third project involving 4 additional corridors is being planned in the Salt Lake County. These deployments have given UDOT the experience and insight to understand the value of connected vehicle technology and prepare us for a scaled-up deployment scenario. All of these projects have been used or will use either UDOT or UTA-owned fleet vehicles. To realize the full benefit of the connected autonomous vehicles can provide, we have studied and need to deploy the technology into a wider number of vehicles. This will involve partnerships with automakers, Tier 1 suppliers, and other companies who have technical skill and partnership with the OEMs. We see these partnerships as long-term commitments in understanding, deploying, and maintaining a vehicle data ecosystem. The motion needed to approve this $8 million of state funds for phase 1 to develop the partnership to develop the connected vehicle data ecosystems as detailed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think the only acronym has not, it's OEM. I don't know if the that's the original equipment manufacturers, that's your GM, Fords, Toyotas.
And
I appreciated the presentation yesterday, and we certainly need to look at this, so I move for approval of this.
I'll second that, because I think this puts us clearly on the cutting edge of technology, and that's where we want to be.
Yes, indeed.
I'm in agreement with the project, and I'm excited to see what will help us do with the quality of air, which is important here on the Wasatch Front. It's a few days out. The sooner we start, the sooner we get there. So I'm glad that we're moving forward with this.
Any further discussions, questions?
Just that I appreciate the fact that if you look in that 4th paragraph, when it talks about that during this project we're using a UDOT or UTA fleet, so we really are able to control the analysis, and that will help moving forward as we figure out how it's going to adapt to the rest of us down the road.
Amen. Go ahead. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, carries. Motion carries.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item on the agenda is the recreational trails program that was introduced last month in Smithfield. We do have Chris Haller also here with us today, ready to answer any questions. If you have any, the motion for this month is to approve the 2019 Federal Trails Program totaling 1.7. I'll say it. Excuse me. $1,723,894 in federal aid funds, and $5,197,408 of sponsor funds, totaling $6,921,302 in new projects as detailed.
Chris, would you please explain the sponsor funds portion, where they're coming from?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the Director, and those in the audience today, and also your valued assistance on the Transportation Commission to those members. That is matching funds that could either be received with the Governor's Office of Outdoor Recreation Funds, in-kind donations, such as if you have particular county or individuals that are supplying equipment for that, or materials, cash donations, and or volunteer hours. So it's just not a dollar per dollar. It can also be those indirect costs associated with that. So, and donations received from private organizations as well.
And there's
presumably also property that people would be willing to commit to that purpose?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Commissioner Bartlett. So that in one particular project, as I alluded to last month at the meeting in September, there is an in-kind donation from a nonprofit religious organization that donated property in order to assist with one of the grant applications. So thank you for that question.
And is there any additional donations since last month's report?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second, I love this.
Oh, good. Any further discussions? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, that is all for
Good
me.
job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to express our appreciation to Chris and all the work he does. I mean, he brings a list that looks easy. He spends the year making this look easy, so thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
So yeah, there's a lot of requests.
And I see that Mayor Ralph Licker showed up. Thank you. And you have the presentation now, I hope. And we're anxious to hear it. Welcome.
Good morning, thank you, and I apologize for being late. I looked at your agenda and saw we were way down and thought, oh, we'll get there about X time, and you moved quickly and efficiently, so I applaud you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We appreciate being with you, and the Central Wasatch Commission Chair, Chris McCandless, sends his regrets that he couldn't be here. He had some things come up that just prevented him from being able to make it out this morning. I'm here to really just introduce to you a new governmental entity in Utah, relatively new, the Central Wasatch Commission, and some of the work that we're doing, our mission, and some of the work we're doing, the roles we have. We're already working closely with Carlos, who's a member of the commission, representing the state, and on the Little Cottonwood Canyon environmental impact statement that's underway, and we obviously are very appreciative of the relationship that we have and will have going forward. So Central Wasatch Commission was formed actually last year, towards the end of last year, and is an outcome of Mountain Accord. And I think most of you probably know, or at least have heard of Mountain Accord. It was a focused effort to try to bring all of the various governmental entities and private entities together to agree on how we should both administer and protect the resources and look at how we can accommodate the ever-increasing use and users in the Central Wasatch Mountains. An agreement was developed and formed and signed by all of the parties. Every local governmental entity on the front and the back of the Wasatch, the state of Utah, signed by the governor and the leadership in the legislature, by all of the ski resorts, by all the environmental organizations, and by literally hundreds of community members who had been involved. an outcome of that was a decision of the group, or a recommendation, a proposal of the group, that a new governmental entity be formed to oversee what happens and to coordinate what happens and to take some specific actions to protect the mountains that are so beloved by everybody who lives, on the front and back of the Wasatch. So that, as is true for anything along these lines, it took a while for that to get accomplished. But as of towards the end of last year, the organization got established. And then, like any startup organization, it was done through interlocal agreement under state law. So there will be, as of Monday, there will be 10 jurisdictions represented. And basically all of the cities and the counties on the Wasatch Front and the Wasatch Back, around Salt Lake Valley and Summit County and Park City. And then the state of Utah, and we're fortunate to have your director represent the state. And it includes a specific geographic area. It is basically from I-80 on the north end, so Parley's Canyon, the south side of Parley's Canyon, with I-80 being the boundary. Basically, the west side is the Front Range and those communities. And the east side is Park City and Summit County. So it would take I-80 and then go all the way to Quinn's Junction and then back along through Park City and up to the Summit County Ridge and tie back into Salt Lake County. And then the Little Cottonwood Canyon, American Fork Canyon, so the Salt Lake County, Utah County Ridge on the south. The mission of the Central Wasatch Commission is to both serve in that coordinating role I was talking about, and to provide sort of try to provide a focal point both for information and for decision making of all of the entities that have responsibilities in the Central Wasatch Mountains, but then also to implement Mountain Accord. And Mountain Accord got specific enough in some areas that it has some very specific outcomes it wanted to achieve. One of those was to create a new federal designation, a new, what the name that got arrived at was National Conservation and Recreation Area for the Central Wasatch Mountains through congressional legislation. So in actually 2016, Representative Chaffetz introduced legislation in Congress. There was a hearing held on it. It was late in the session, so it didn't really move forward. And then I think the thinking was that more would be done in 2017, but because of all the startup responsibilities with the Central Wasatch Commission getting underway, that really didn't happen. We now have a staff. I was hired beginning June 1st, and I've just brought on 2 other staff people, one of whom is here, Lindsay Nielsen with me, who's our communications director, and then a deputy director who some of you know. Jesse Dean was the deputy director of the Downtown Alliance with the Chamber in Salt Lake, and he's come on as the deputy director already in the last few weeks. So we're kind of staffing up, we're getting rolling. And a first assignment that I had even before I started really was to pursue the congressional legislation. We were invited by a congressional delegation to see if we could put together legislation for this year. So we worked pretty feverishly to see if we could do something, and it was an incredibly narrow time frame. As we worked through all that, we decided to slow down that process a bit and engage the community more and engage all the various interests more before we presented something to our congressional delegation to move forward. But we're expecting really before the end of this year to have that legislation ready to go. And we're working closely with our congressional delegation and all other partners to pull that together. The transportation elements of both the commission and included in the legislation are important for our mountains and for achieving transportation solutions. So the legislation actually has two, and will probably before it's over have three provisions relating to transportation, all in support of what will need to get done and serving the outcomes of the Little Cottonwood Canyon Environmental Impact Statement, as well as future transportation decisions, both state and Big Cottonwood Canyon or along I-80, as well as in some of the local canyons like Mill Creek, which is a county road. So all of those things are moving forward well, and we wanted to introduce you because we know the transportation pieces of our work are going to be incredibly important. We are also doing one other thing operationally that ties in with your work here. We currently have offices at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon in a building there. When I came on board as someone who lives downtown and was trying to avoid long commutes for all the reasons that a lot of us do, I learned that the Wasatch Front Regional Council is relocating downtown. And they're in the process, they've got a lease, they're in the process of building out space downtown. I inquired about whether or not they might have space to share, because it's a real natural relationship for us as a regional government entity like they are, for us to learn from them and for us to share in a variety of ways. It turned out they didn't have space, but there's space right next door. And we are in the process, and probably as soon as Monday now, we'll finalize a lease that will be adjacent to the Wasatch Front Regional Council. And we're working through how we can both share resources and work together well as we go forward. So it's an exciting time for us, and I think for those of us who care about the mountains here, and we wanted to introduce ourselves because we know we'll be working very closely with you on issues relating to the Central Wasatch Mountains, and we see sort of the transportation issues along with the lands and resource protection issues, and then solving some of the longer term issues as our primary focuses as we go forward. So thank you for allowing us to spend a little time, and I can tell you that Carlos and the transportation department have been incredibly helpful. It was a volunteer effort until staff came on board to be able to put the functions of the commission, just the operational functions together, and all of the jurisdictions, and including the State Department of Transportation, really devoted quite a bit of time and energy to help the commission in its sort of functional needs as the commission got underway, and that continues today, so we're really appreciative of that. And I'll just say as well, we've been working closely with John Thomas from the time he started on that environmental impact statement for Little Cottonwood Canyon, and he's incredible for all of us to work with. He's a dream, I can tell you, to work with as a partner in anything that we try to do, so appreciate that as well.
Any questions?
The specter of litigation is gone?
Well, I wouldn't say the specter is gone. I'm spending hours every day responding to ground mount requests, which we're not really well equipped to do as such a small entity. So there was litigation over Mountain Accord. Right. So those of you who aren't familiar with this, Mountain Accord was this basically cooperative effort of private and public entities coming together. And I don't think any of us thought of ourselves, and we were not a governmental entity. So Central Wasatch Commission is a governmental entity, and we follow to a T everything relating to, and even exceed, the requirements of the open meetings laws and government records laws. But I don't think any of us anticipated that's what we were doing as Mountain Accord. It was basically a volunteer effort of folks coming together that included government and non-governmental folks on the actual sort of running.
So you're just a separate entity?
It was, yeah, so it was a very separate entity.
I just wanted that to be really clear.
Yeah.
The public still has some confusion.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Mountain Accord was something that was done as sort of a volunteer effort by folks wanting to come together and address issues in the Wasatch Mountains. It was challenged about whether or not the open meetings law applied. There was a state district court decision that said, we think there may be, was the ruling, an application of the open meetings law. And then directed it to be further explored through some more information. Because the Mountain Accord is done and there's now a new governmental entity, the parties have been working to settle that case. Actually, we thought we had a settlement, and now it's not clear that that settlement is going to be finalized, but we literally are within days or weeks of that sort of final determination. Whether or not that decision is either appealed or there's just a settlement and we move forward. But it's a separate entity.
Thanks for the clarification,
Yeah.
Ralph. I think
Yeah,
that's important.
and I appreciate you bringing it up. Yeah, it's a separate entity. I'll put it this way, we're going above and beyond what is required under the law for purposes of transparency and openness and inclusiveness. So
if this is a separate government entity, who does it answer to?
it actually was formed by interlocal agreement. So under state law, local governments and governmental jurisdictions can come together and form a governmental entity. So this commission actually was formed by a formal agreement under the Interlocal Agreement Act of the state of Utah by now 10 jurisdictions, the state being one of them, who agree to have this governmental entity perform certain functions.
How's it funded?
It's funded by contributions from each of the entities.
Each of the entities.
Right. So each of them are contributing, appropriating a certain amount of money for the operations of the entity. And it's actually, we're going to be having a retreat next month to sort of talk about what that should look like going forward. But it's a commitment of each of the entities as part of the agreement to fund the operations of the entity.
I think it's exciting, Ralph.
Yeah.
I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I would say that we're incredibly thankful that Ralph is on and Lindsay. And it is so, I had no idea what it takes as volunteers to stand up an organization. Just to create the governance, to hire an executive director, something has to come first. And I'm just so thankful to be in this part.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have item number 9 before us, corridor preservation, and Charles Romont is here to ask for money. I guess he has no break.
He's here to help you spend your money.
I love spending transportation dollars. Thank you very much, Commissioners. I appreciate the time and opportunity to present. I want to reinforce what Commissioner Bittner said about the miracle working of Diane McGuire as we go through these. I think you'll see how hard she works and what a great job she does.
She has 2 knees and warranted for 200,000 miles each, right? Okay.
So the first item that's not expressly on the agenda, but I think that is important for us to understand, is just an overview of the funds available in the Marta-Dilry Corridor Preservation Fund. At the very top, you'll see the balance forward is a little over $8.6 million. We have a pending reimbursement from Mountain View Corridor for a little over $9.4 million. Again, the great work that Diane did to get out in front of the current phase on Mountain View Corridor, and projects reimburse these corridor preservation purchases that are to their benefit, and we're at that point with that project, and so we're processing that as we speak. There's also been a little over $2.3 million in revenue to the fund through the motor vehicle rental tax, property management rental revenue, and some interest. We had a little over $2.7 million in purchases that were paid for in the last period, leaving a fund balance of approximately $17.7 million. We have a few transactions that have been approved by the Commission that are still pending and that we're working through the details to get to closing. the dollar amount that would be committed to those transactions once they're all done totals a little over 3.6, bringing a net balance, if you factor in those pending transactions, a little over $14 million. If I am persuasive and get your approval on the 6 items that we have on the agenda today, we would seek to expend an additional $8.765 billion, leaving the balance of the fund at a little over $5.3 million. The fund is doing well. It's allowing us to serve the purposes of the corridor preservation statute and fund. And again, I applaud Diane for her hard work. If you don't have any questions, I'll move straight into the agenda items. The first 3 items relate to SR 73 out in Eagle Mountain. I think as we're all well aware, that part of the state is growing in a very rapid fashion. The need for transportation to accommodate that growth is also expanding and increasing at a pretty high rate. The first parcel, we have the text here, but I think a picture tells a whole lot of the story, is this Jacobs parcel. Is there a way to zoom out just a tiny hair? Just like one. Or do I have the ability to zoom it out? So what you can see here is this is a home. It has a fairly large barn in the back where the homeowner rents the barn out for horses. There are a variety of folks in the community who keep their horses on this property. The thing you'll see here is SR 73 is planned to expose. It's going to look a lot like Mountain View Corridor with the main highway down the middle and frontage roads on the side. You can, if we go to the next image, you can actually see where it sits, and you can see a whole lot of the development that is going on in this area. You can see the new neighborhoods that have been constructed, driving population growth in this area pretty considerably. One thing that really jumped out at me as I was evaluating, is this one we want to move forward with, is, we're not hitting the house, we're not hitting the barn, but we're really, really close to them. One thing I learned, and I appreciate Diane explaining this to me, is you can't get into that barn once this road is constructed because they come in from the north. So we will basically eliminate his ability to use that barn once this road is constructed, and that's a big part of the reason why we would recommend the acquisition of this parcel at this time. The Jacobs family has been here for over 22 years. They would like to move to St. George with the announcement that our
A little commercial.
They, with the announcement of our project, their ability to sell this parcel is pretty severely hindered. Folks don't want to buy a property knowing a freeway will be coming through it soon. The appraised value is $840,000, and we would seek the Commission's approval to proceed with the purchase of this parcel for $840,000.
Perfect example of why this fund was created in the first place.
Exactly. You will see several of those today. There's one that I think is a little bit challenging, but that we'll walk through. But there are 5 of these are straightforward. We know we're coming. We are making people's lives harder, interfering with their ability to go about their lives in a way that if we didn't have a project coming.
I move that.
Second.
There's a motion. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. When did we announce this project?
These folks learned about it at a meeting on July 31st. I'm not sure when the project itself was publicly announced. I'm looking at Terry and Rob. Do you know?
Well, the environmental process, and that was one of the environmental public meetings.
Okay, thank you.
So they came to us shortly after they learned about it, knowing that they had their plan to move and that they would not be able to sell.
Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
With the chairman's permission, may I jump a little bit out of order and go to the third item on the agenda and come back? I think the second one is a little bit tougher sell, and I'd like to save that for next. Thank you. So we can jump to item 9C. Which now we zoomed in, and I can't read anything because my eyes aren't that good. This is a parcel owned by the Peterson family. They are in the process of constructing a new home and would like to sell their home. And as you can see from these images, our future project will go right over the top of their home, the current home. Obviously, their ability to sell with that impending project is limited, if that's probably an understatement. We've appraised the parcel for $455,000 and would seek the Commission's approval to proceed with the acquisition at that price.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded, and any further discussions or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Number C is approved.
Thank you. Jumping back to item 9B, this is the Gifford parcel. This is the final of three that are potentially impacted by SR 73. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right. Yep, okay. So the Peterson parcel we just spoke about is here kind of just right of center in this second image that you have. The Gifford parcel is seen here. The first image you can, with the lighting I'm having trouble zeroing in, you can see here the Gifford parcel is. They're part of a cul-de-sac. The Petersons, I think, were also on that cul-de-sac. With our new project, that cul-de-sac is going away, and the homes that are on it are obviously going to be impacted and eventually acquired to the extent they haven't already been. The Giffords are their home is not going to be under the freeway, unlike the Petersons, but they're going to be very, very close to it. We would require a significant acquisition of the vacant parts of the lot that their home sits on, and we would have to reconfigure their driveway in a very significant way. I think those impacts are very significant, and again, that's why it's not going to be under the road like some of the other ones we've looked at, but it's going to be really close. The damage claims that they would be able to assert would be significant. The Giffords are, I apologize, I got out of order with the Petersons. Just to clarify, the Giffords are also trying to build a new home and sell this home like the Petersons, excuse me. With the project, that plan is obviously disrupted significantly. They wouldn't be acquired as part of this project for some time to come, and therefore there would be no way for them to proceed with their plan to construct a new home and sell this home because the dollars wouldn't add up. They wouldn't be able to get fair market value. The project influence rule that we have to abide by when we're acquiring under threat of eminent domain and allows them to exclude the negative impact of a project doesn't apply in the real world. And right now we're in the real world because we're doing a voluntary acquisition. I guess we're always in the real world, but the project influence rule doesn't apply. The way that this has been presented to me, and I agree wholeheartedly with Diane and with the project team, this is the right thing to do for this property owner. Even though there is at some point a way we could acquire it, not quite pay as much money, I think it is appropriate for UDOT to take on the burden of the impact of our future project on this property owner. And for those reasons, we would ask the Commission's approval to purchase this parcel and home for $520,000.
We can still rent this home until the time comes.
We would absolutely turn it over to our property management team and be able to generate a little bit of income, which would offset some of those expenses, and see what we could do in the long run to eventually surplus this parcel.
Move for approval.
Second.
So we're discussing item number B, Gifford property. Any further discussions or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number B is approved.
Thank you. Item 9D is a stretch of property along Geneva Road in Vineyard, another area that has seen significant growth in Utah County. The property is owned by the Anderson Development folks, who are largely responsible for a lot of the development down there. They've done a lot of great work with that old Geneva site. They have platted and approved some pad sites on their property. It's I apologize, these maps are not the greatest. You can see we're trying to acquire in fee and a public utility easement. The appraisal is at $12 a foot. And on this map, so this map, because the text is at the bottom, they flipped it upside down. South is up and north is down on this particular parcel, but you can see this area here that's not terribly well developed yet is where the Anderson folks are planning to put in some commercial pad sites. This is one where we can make sure they continue to develop if we can acquire the parcels that we need. If they go ahead and develop and build on top of that area, it would be significantly more expensive in the future. There's imminent development coming here. Thankfully, the developer's willing to work with us, and we've been able to negotiate a deal at $12 a foot. And based on the appraisal, the fact sheet here has a proposed purchase price of $875,000. It's actually going to be a little under $873,000 once the final numbers are put down on that public utility easement, and so we would ask the Commission's approval to proceed with this acquisition such that we don't spend more than $875,000 to finalize it.
What's the size of this parcel?
Just the strip? Is it just a strip along the road?
It is. It's a strip with a public utility easement behind it.
It's not highlighted on the map, so you can't tell.
Yeah, it's so it is. The fee acquisition is 1.489. It's on the third page here at the bottom, in teeny tiny print that I'm having trouble seeing.
There we go. Okay, thank you.
And the utility easement covers 0.36 acres.
Do they have a lot more of this property along the same route? Anderson, it seems we've done a lot of this.
Diane, do you know how much Anderson owns in this area?
They've done a lot of development in this area. I'm not sure specifically where their parcels are.
So we're going to see more of it.
We purchased from them a few years ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So I'm not aware of anything else that we're going to buy, but I know they own land out here.
Okay, I might, if I may, I might have a little history on this one since I think this started when I was at the region. And this is just a small parcel that they own. It's not related to the larger Geneva property that they've developed. It was a small piece they bought, and we studied the need for the road widening after they had already gotten all their approvals.
Oh, okay.
So it was just, it's kind of it's not related to the other bigger pieces that they
It's
own.
just,
kind
it's
of
not an add-on then?
No.
Okay, that's
No.
what I was concerned with. Thank you.
Charles, I have a question. Maybe you or Diane can answer this.
Mm-hmm.
With these developers or individual owners, are we in a position to give some kind of substitute parcels that we have not used in the past? Kind of
Those opportunities do arise. In this particular instance, I think the developer is more interested in the cash to facilitate their development. I'm not 100% sure about that. That would be my guess. But there are certainly instances. I signed a file the other day that you guys had approved in the spring where that was exactly how we worked it out. I think with this particular example, this particular business operation is looking to gain access to some money, and this is a way that we can facilitate our project, and they're willing to cooperate and voluntarily sell. Again, I'm guessing on that, but that would be my thinking about knowing how developers think, which is a hard thing to understand sometimes, but at least in this instance, that would be my best guess.
I move for approval of this item.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item number D, Anderson Geneva property.
Call for the question.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank you. The final two parcels are related to a future interchange on I-84 in Mountain Green. And again, with your permission, I'd like to go to the second one first. It's the larger acquisition, and so I think it makes sense to consider that. first. This is an area where Ivory Homes has a significant development in the works, very far in the approval process. They are acquiring property from landowners in the area who are thankfully very supportive of our project, have been willing to work with us. So item 9F on the agenda is the Sotheby LLC entity. They are selling several hundred acres to Ivory Homes. They have excluded from that sale the 21 acres shown here on the map. And the next item fills in the gap that you're seeing there. It's the home that covers that area. So we'll get to that in a moment. This is a significant acquisition of, it's just a hair under 21 acres. The appraisal puts the value at $256,000 an acre, which is awfully high, but with that type of development going on in the area, it's not surprising that it is this high. This is an area where Utah's beautiful mountains are causing us to pay a transportation price. You'll see the Trappers Way road that heads up to Pineview Reservoir here. I was just up there a couple of months ago over Memorial Day, and it's one of the most beautiful areas I've ever seen in my life. This project will facilitate, it's also the less traveled way to Snow Basin. This project will facilitate a lot of the development that's going on in Morgan County and Mountain Green in particular, and in these recreation areas. The project is a little ways out, but given the development that is coming, if we do not acquire now, we will have a very hard time acquiring later and pay a much steeper price for the parcels. So on this particular item 9F, we would ask the Commission's approval to acquire a little under 21 acres for $5,285,000.
That's a chunk of change. Chris, remind me, what's the date on that?
There's not a currently funded project, so this is where
That's what I thought.
Maybe, Mr. Chairman, sorry, for Commissioner Evans, maybe benefit as well. You recall that Morgan County Commissioners have been persistent in working with this Transportation Commission about the importance of fixing or changing the way we have our interchange is very unique in this area. They want to consolidate that, make it typical interchange for their economic development. So this is a really important project for them. One of the activities that Region 1 took on was doing a planning study looking at how this might work. That's a piece that's still underway, Chris, and trying to work that out. But this is the location that we would move forward in. I think we're in the third phase of the so it's in the long-range plan, which makes it eligible for the Corridor Preservation Fund.
Okay.
Yeah. So do we buy this and then see what we need and then we sell back?
Yeah. The Corridor Preservation Fund was set up, again, it's now actually referred to as the Martin Dillry Corridor Preservation Fund. Representative Dillry was really the champion of Corridor Preservation in the legislature. Representative Kevin Garn is actually the one that first carried the bill, and I think it was 96 or 97 created. It's pretty unique in the country. But it's a revolving loan fund, so the revenues that come into it are primarily out of the vehicle rental. There's a tax on vehicle rentals, generates about $3.9 million a year into that fund. And then when the commission makes a decision to fund a project, when it's in that funded year, the project pays the Corridor Preservation Fund back. So, here you're buying it at 2018 prices. If you decide that you fund this project in, say, 2028, that project's going to be paying it back at today's prices, not 2028 prices. So you got the benefit of not having development on it, as well as the benefit of today's prices versus the 2020 prices.
And I would add to that, if you add the next acquisition that we're going to talk about to this, we will have 2 of the 3 main parcels to facilitate this project. If we do this 10 years from now, I would imagine we would be acquiring property from at least a dozen different property owners after this property has been subdivided. That is a time-consuming process, and so these acquisitions facilitate, once that project is ready to go, it can actually go without waiting for additional right-of-way work.
This will certainly help you with more kind of commissioners and showing that you're in fact making progress.
I move for approval of this acquisition.
Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second on item number F. Any further questions, discussions?
Just a question. So as we look at this, it kind of makes a J. So that the bottom part of the J, is that part also required for the interchange?
That's
or
right.
is
So,
that part that
so
we'll be
it's,
able to surplus?
with the lighting, it's hard to see, but this kind of whitish, grayish line that runs along the bottom of the page is Interstate 84.
Okay.
To the left of the image is where the current interchange is, and it feeds into this road up at the top that eventually goes up to Trappers Way. And so this interchange is going to be shifting and turned into a traditional interchange. I think there are 2 ways off and 1 way on at this interchange, and we would now allow full movement in all directions once this is redone. And so this is going to be one side of the new on-ramp into Interstate 84.
And as Carlos said, this is what the Morgan County people have been so passionate about. And lobbied for this now many, many times for that area, so that it's a worthy project.
To see it too.
Yeah,
To be up there and
we
understand what it was.
we went on a tour, we
That's
saw
right,
it.
we saw it.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I just want to add a little bit, because there's been 2 questions that we've kind of danced around a little bit, and I just want to make sure we clarify. So the J is a big blocky J on that bottom left side. The interchange, if you've driven many of them, they're smooth ramps, they angle from a long ways out to nothing, more of a triangle shape. So yes, the property that we don't need, we will sell and surplus back and put back in the market, back on the tax rolls, once we're able to identify what we do and what we don't need. So I just wanted to clarify, because that's what you said, would we surplus it? That's kind of what your question is. Thank you.
But it makes us the master of our own destiny in this regard. And based on the study that Morgan County did, this area is going to have phenomenal growth. So this is a great important thing in the name of safety for the amount of traffic that's going to go through this area.
Exactly.
It's going to grow big. They were right at all with their numbers.
So we're in the middle of our corridor study for the area. We're ground truthing everything that everybody's given us, and we're trying to gather the whole story and understand everybody's different viewpoints and aspects. And so as we finish that study up, that will be early spring. We still have some more time to do. Maybe later this fall we might be able to get it wrapped up. But then we'll have a much better idea of what we need. The other thing to keep in mind is, while the interchange may be a triangle, we may not use that whole block for the interchange. We may use it for, or need it for, detention basins, or drainage paths, or other ancillary needs relative to a highway. And this allows us to control that destiny and have that property so we can use it if we need it, or we can sell it if we don't need it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. So all in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item F carries.
Thank you. And then the final item, going out of order, going back to 9E, is same project, same area. This is the parcel that fills in the gap. This is a parcel owned by the London family. As you can see, this is an odd-shaped parcel. Its value is a little bit lower because the way that it accesses the state route to the north is a long, skinny stretch of driveway, and the property that's utilized where the home sits, where the barn sits, is back here. I will add that the barn here is pretty neat. He's done a lot of put a lot of personal touches. Apparently has a very nice entertainment area in his barn, not horses, but bar stools and those sorts of things. That's why we're.
While we own it, is it a retreat property?
I need to consult with my legal counsel on what uses can legally be made of the parcel. I'm not.
Comes under that statute.
Not sure that we can, but
I know.
I suspect we will also turn this one to property management.
No,
But
it's allowed.
but perhaps perhaps someone will acquire it and put it to use in a entertainment way that would be kind of interesting as this area grows. I'm speculating again, but that could happen. But as I mentioned, the value here is a hair lower because this parcel is a little less utile than the ones we were just talking about. It's at $250,000 an acre. Given the development, the improvements don't add significant value to it because it's turning into a huge development. But we would seek approval to purchase this parcel at a little over 3 acres for a total of $790,000.
That's the request before us.
Move for approval.
Okay, there's a move and a second. Any further discussion, questions?
No.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8 is approved. Thank you.
Those are all the items I have, but looking at this, as I contemplate this, I really do have to applaud Diane. Her work is incredible. Finding a way to get these parcels carved off of a significant development with a very powerful developer in Ivory Development shows just how great of a resource Diane is, and I apologize for taking your time, but I like to brag about my people when they're doing this great work, and I appreciate you allowing me to do that.
Yeah. We love you, Diane.
See, Diane, is that the barn where that guy wrote the song "Beer for My Horses"?
Yes, exactly.
I thought so.
With the stool and the whole thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you,
Good job.
Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, on the item number 10, we have annual accomplishments, conditions, and needs reports. And at this time, Jared Esselman will talk about Division of Aeronautics. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Appreciate being here, Director. So we're going to run through, and I appreciate you giving me the time to come and speak today. I feel like it was a year ago that I did this, and I'd only been here a week. It feels like last week. So it's just gone by so fast. I'm amazed I'm standing up here again. So last time we talked, we covered the airport cooperative, or the airport capital improvement program. So I don't want to rehash what we talked about last month, but I do want to go over some of the things that we've accomplished in the last 5 years and how we're thinking about the next 5 and 10 years. So how does this, oh, this pretty little flamingo mouse, is that what I'm using? Okay, so we're going to look at some financial trends. I want to show you those first, and just how the division is doing. So our revenue trends on the left here for the last 5 years, you can see we've increased our revenue, our level of revenue. We've definitely seen an increase in aviation fuel tax. So the sales tax on aviation fuel has gone up. You can see the orange line here, our registration fees, they were continuing to decrease. And then right as we brought in Black Box and started really offering customer service to our aircraft owners, you can see that significant uptick. And then the bottom line is actually aircraft operations, the revenue we bring in from the University of Utah and all of our different customers who fly in our aircraft. And that line is fairly flat. On the right, our expenditure trends for the last 5 years. You can see the top line is our aid program to airports, and that really mimics the aviation fuel tax because they get a percentage of that. So any fuel that an airport brings in or sells, any fuel tax they bring in, they get a percentage back. The next line, and this is where I kind of want to catch your eye on this, is its aircraft operation expenses. So the revenue line is fairly flat, but you can see the expense line jumps pretty wildly across the last 5 years, and that's simply because we've had some major engine overhauls, we've had some propeller overhauls, we've had to do some major maintenance on the aircraft. So that's a fairly chaotic line, is that a good word for it? It jumps.
What is the size of the fleet?
Right now we have the B200, King Air B200.
What year is that?
That is a 2000. The King Air C90, which is a 1998, and then the Cessna 206, which is also a 1998.
So the maintenance costs are reflective of the age.
Yes, yes. I didn't intend to talk about the airplanes today, but
Well, just as you referenced that line.
yeah, they're 20 years old. They're getting there. So the next line is our admin expenses for the last 5 years. That gradually increases, and we expect that. We expect as the state does COLA increases, as they do merit increases, we expect to see that line go up. There is a rather large uptick between 2017 and 2018. That was the Black Box expense. So, and we do expect that to be a slightly increasing line as we bring on a new full-time employee for the aircraft registration program, and here on and here out, that'll slightly increase.
So a couple years ago, the legislature made the decision that we weren't collecting the registration fee. The registration fees weren't reflective of actually the aircraft that were being stationed in Utah. So it's like over 50% of the time, in the state for over 50% of the time, you need to pay registration fees. So the legislature decided they wanted to kind of up the game on that. The department was that, this was the tax commission had that responsibility. So the department then was given the gift of being on the front of collecting registration fees. We went down the path of hiring a consultant. That's the
black box
that he's referring to do that work. Last session, the legislature, looked at this and said, probably a full-time equivalent employee. That's, so we hired somebody. They lasted 2 weeks.
Maybe.
And so he's in the process of bringing somebody on. And
yes.
That's the expense he's referring to.
Yes, absolutely. And then the orange line there is airport construction, which is all the grants that we write for airport improvement projects, and that got a good shot in the arm, and it is starting to taper off as we plan out. Well, that's the last 5 years, but as we plan out. So that's the financial trends in the past. I want to kind of give you an overall picture. So the top orange line is revenues overall. So that's fuel taxes, registration fees, aircraft operations, everything that comes in. Interest, you can see those aviation fuel tax increases right there in 2016, 2017. We plan for the next 5 years conservatively low on our revenues, and then the very next line is conservatively high on our expenditures, so that we're never planning high on our revenues and low on our expenditures and getting in trouble. There is a little bit of uptick in the 2017 year and down to 2018 for the expenditures. Again, some aircraft maintenance, but also we added some projects to the ACIP. We got some money out there, did a lot of good. Matter of fact, not a few months ago, Judd Hill, the airport manager from Moab, came in and did a presentation. We gave Moab $1 million, just flat $1 million for apron expansion and hard stands, with the goal of getting them into a primary entitlement status, which means with the FAA, if you're non-primary, you get $150,000 a year. If you're primary, you get $1 million a year. And I am proud to say, this year, before the deadline, Moab got 10,037 enplanements, $1 million a year. So they are now a primary entitlement airport.
So part of those increased money, state money, the legislature, they looked at the balance in the restricted fund, and we were carrying about a $5 to $6 million balance, and they made a conscious decision to want to spend that down. So yes. The blip is reflective, and I would say that was a one-time blip at this point. Is how we have to look at it.
Yes, yes. The blue line is our running balance, and I want to very much clarify what the running balance is versus our carryover, which we talked about in the ACIP last month. The carryover is basically the liquid assets that are left over every year. So we balance our checkbook with the ACIP, and the running balance is reflective of that as we balance our, the carryover is reflective of that. As we balance our checkbook, we know what money we intend to write checks for. The running balance is what's actually in the account, and there are still checks to be written as projects open. They may be 2-year projects. So a project that starts in 2019 may not close until 2021. So we're still holding that running balance, but the money's been programmed. The money's already spent. The check just hasn't been written. So that's why the running balance, one, Carlos is right, we got a lot of money out the door, we added some projects. Two, we know that balance will fluctuate even though our planned revenues and expenditures are flat. So what do we do with this money? So for the next 5 years, here are the number of projects trends that we see, and I don't want you to take cause for alarm. Beyond 2020, we just haven't planned that far out. So a lot of airports will have needs that they will see coming in 2019 and 2020 that then we will plan for as we go along. 2018, 2019 are fairly solid. 2021, not so much. 2020, not so much. 2021, even less so. We will add projects to those. The important thing to look at here is the reflection of funding trends with the number of projects. So the federal money, the top blue line, very much correlates to the number of projects. And what that tells you is we are leveraging our federal dollars very well, that we are meeting projects with federal dollars. The gray line is local funding spent on those projects, and then the orange line is the state funding. And here's something I want to point out in particular, because this is how we're planning, this is how we're thinking about how do we get the biggest return on investment for our state dollars. So as those two lines hit the 2022 mark, they start to diverge. And that's for two reasons. One, we're really looking at leveraging every state dollar the most we can with both local and federal funding. And I would love to take credit for that's the only reason, but the other reason is there are local projects planned at airports that are primary entitlement, like now Moab, that do not get state grant dollars. So that's the reason for that divergence, but that's how we're thinking about how do we use our money? How do we get the biggest bang for our buck? So one thing I did want to bring up as we look at how we spend our money is our backcountry airstrips. They are publicly owned, they are public use, they are included in the state system plan, they are included on the Utah Aeronautics chart, but they're often left out. I mean, these are airstrips that are used and often maintained with private or local dollars. Often not local dollars, mostly private dollars. And I just want to give you an idea, can I move this? There we go, of what one of these looks like. And this is a big draw for recreation, outdoor recreation in Utah. And I hate that it's left forgotten, not really included. So this is the Utah Backcountry Pilots Association. They're the ones who take care of a lot of these airstrips. And this is Mexican Mountain's a good example of one of our airstrips that is highly used. I'm going to zoom in if I can find the airstrip here. Oh, there it is. That's it. So I'd like to start considering these as public use airports, more as public use airports. They are a big draw. We did a tour of backcountry airstrips about 4 months ago, and at every backcountry airstrip I went to, there was at least one plane from out of state. People from out of state are flying to Utah to come to our backcountry airstrips. And as I talk about this, I want you to realize these really are just backcountry, and they're going to stay backcountry. We're not going to pave them. We're going to do anything crazy. The projects for these airstrips are really, we're going to go out, we're going to buy 2 buckets of paint, white paint, we're going to find some big rocks, we're going to put them on the corner to outline the airstrip, and we're going to paint them white. The entire project might cost $50. But that's the kind of projects that these look at, but they're often just forgotten. So how do I go back to my PowerPoint here? I'm just going to click this little PowerPoint thing. Maybe this is it. That's it. Okay. So one of the accomplishments that I am very proud of that we got done this year in cooperation with the Utah Airport Operators Association, all 46 airports, is our Fly Utah program. This logo was designed by a young lady at the Utah State University. She did that for us for free. It was just, she had a passion for graphic design. So this is our new little Fly Utah logo. The Fly Utah program is similar to other states' passport programs, but Utah is unique. In other states, you actually get a passport, and every time you go to an airport, they stamp it, and then you mail it in, and they send it back, and it's fairly expensive to actually print the books. We have a responsive website. It is all online. It's all on your iPad or your iPhone. You can log in. You can come to the UDOT Aeronautics webpage, click on the Fly Utah link. You come in. You can create a profile. And then as pilots and aircraft owners create their profile, every time they visit an airport, they open their profile, click visit, and it geolocates them to the airport so that we know, yes, you were at the airport, or no, you weren't at the airport. So we know that. And it promotes aeronautics across the state. We already have 3 people who said, yes, I'm going to do this in a year. I'm going to do all 46 airports in a year. And the Utah Airport Operators Association actually gives prizes for when you reach 15 airports. 25 airports, 35 airports, and the grand prize at 46 airports, 2 conferences, all the museums, 3 backcountry airstrips, and 11 historic arrows is a nice flight jacket. But it's dedication.
Wow.
It's dedication.
Can I borrow the state plane to fly those, please?
So that's a great question. Next commission meeting, I believe we're going to Vernal, and we're visiting the airport profiles, and you can click your visit and gain a point.
Even if we didn't get there on the plane.
Even if you didn't get there on the plane. That's right.
Remember that.
I can do this.
So I'm very proud that we got that up and running. That's something that UAOA had been working on a long time, and we finally got it done. So this is a little bit bigger lift. This is our Economic Impact Study in Utah Continuous Airport System Plan, UCASP. It has not been done in 10 years. We have not leveraged federal money in 10 years. Colorado and Wyoming leverage about $250,000 of federal money every other year, and we just have not done it. So we are doing it. We have put out a bid, put out an RFQ. Javiation is our consultant on this project, and what this project is going to do is it's going to measure the economic impact of every public use airport in the state. That'll give us a baseline. Here's the economic impact of our airports today, right now. The second step is, what are the market niches for every airport? Not every airport market niche is tourism. Some might be mining, some might be tech, some might be service industry, some might be agriculture. But we're looking at what is the market niche for every airport. We're taking that and we're also looking at the local economic development goals. And we're saying, typically in a system plan, airport goals are, how do we maintain Part 139 standards? And I know that's a little Greek, but it's FAA talk. How do we maintain Part 139 standards? We're moving this to, how do we help the local community achieve their economic development goals? Let's make that the airport's goal. Let's work together. And so with those two objectives in mind, then we create a system plan that marries the airport and the community to achieve the economic development goals, leveraging that port. And it is a port. How does the business center, and this is the last piece, the airport community integrated planning, how does the business center of each community marry or connect with the airport to achieve the greatest leverage they can to boost their economy? So that's what the system plan will head in that direction. I'm very, very proud of the way we're thinking about our system plan. We had 4 consultants bid on this. Y'all are making me nervous watching Carlos.
He's making all of us nervous.
Okay. So we had 4 consultants bid on this. Each one of them came in and said, no one has ever done a system plan with this in mind. It's never been done before. We actually went out to Michael Baker International for our independent fee estimate to negotiate the fees for the bid, and Michael Baker said, we're sorry we did not bid on this. This is amazing. Can we work with you in the future? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I'm very proud of our approach for this. It's unique. It's the first time anybody's taken this and said, how does the airport help the local community achieve its goals? So, and then I have this awesome little, so this is part of the economic story. Because the way we're looking at it is that every airport has an economic story. Oh no, where'd my pause button go? When I get to the right spot, pause. So, this is part of the economic story. This is all of the instrument flight connections over a 12-month period for a single airport in Utah. Can anybody guess which airport this is?
Salt Lake.
It's not Salt Lake.
Provo.
It's not Provo. It's Heber. It's Heber.
Wow.
This is Heber. Over 12 months, this is how, and this is just the IFR flights, the IFR tracking, but this is how connected one regional airport is to the nation. This is one of 46. And this is how connected they are. Now, there is, let me see, this flight track right here, or maybe it's this one, but it's into Brownsville, Texas. It happens 7 times a year. There's an economic story behind that. Why is Heber and why are Heber and Brownville, Texas connected? What's making somebody fly IFR 7 times a year? We don't know, and we're going to find out. That's part of the economic impact study. Is what is the
Sundance is certainly one of them.
Yeah, thank you.
It's probably more so than Utah, IBEX. So
You're talking one of the dirt strips for the
yeah, one of the dirt strips.
Please keep going.
But there's an economic story here that we want to know. We want to leverage that. We want to promote that. Is it a producer supplier? Is it tourism? Are they coming to ski? We want to know how to leverage those connections. But this is how well connected one small regional airport is in Utah.
I was on a national board for many years, and we had a meeting in Utah, actually at Sundance, and they all wanted to come into Heber.
Mm-hmm.
They flew in planes.
They all want to come into Heber.
It was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes, yes. Heber has a lot of what we call heavy iron. Heavy iron
Yeah.
aircraft.
Is that what you call it?
That's what we call it, heavy iron.
Now that landing strip
Yeah.
can't get any bigger,
Nice
can it?
big bird.
It can. It can. It has room to grow.
You could go to the west, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have room to grow it. I hope nobody from Heber's listening. We probably should widen it and strengthen it at some point, just for pavement preservation. If that's because they're landing heavy iron, just for pavement preservation. Every time one of those aircraft hit, it really stresses the weaker pavement that we have there. So we actually do one of these for every airport in the state. We will do one for every airport so that we know how all of our airports really are connected nationally and globally. And I want to talk about something a little futuristic. This is how we're thinking about following Carlos's roadmap, keeping Utah moving, and innovative transportation.
This will kind of
This is where the George Jetson music comes in.
Yes, I wish I had some George Jetson music. So urban air mobility has been a hot topic on the aviation industry. It is probably the fastest growing segment of the aviation industry. So I want to be very clear, we're talking about flying cars, aerial taxis, drone package delivery, aerial ambulances that are autonomous. Right now we have life flight, but that's what's coming. We know that that's coming. So the question I have to ask myself as director is, how do we get Utah ready to welcome this part of the industry to our state? So if Boeing comes to me tomorrow and says, in a year we're going to be ready for this, are you? I need to be able to say, yes, we will be ready for this. That's how I'm thinking about this. So what is the system that makes this all possible? The first thing is radar. Mini radar. So we have mini radar. They're produced out of Orem, Utah. And I brought one to show and tell. So I'm going to pass this around. This is a miniature radar.
Oh, good, so I can land my car.
Yes, so you can land your car in your driveway. But as you pass this around, I want you to know that this is not only something that is realistic, tangible, that you can hold in your hand, but I have 2 of them set up on the south hangar. And, oh no.
Somebody stole them.
Somebody stole them. Somebody stole my website. So this is what happens when you transfer PowerPoints. The links don't go. So I won't try to log in because the password is 8 characters and it's not anything I've memorized. I will describe it to you. So the radar, we have 2 radar that cover runways 35 and 34 right of Salt Lake International Airport off of the south hangar at the Aeronautics Division. And those 2 radar track flights coming in and out of the airport. They do it in live feed, so we can actually see where the radar is, and we can see where the aircraft are. And they also give us a historic database. So we can tell when a plane took off, when a plane was landing. It knows the difference, and it knows the exact time, and it knows about the size of the aircraft. So while I'm disappointed I can't show you the radar. Actually, you know what? Well, It's all right. We're actually putting a monitor up in our lobby that will have this radar feed live on. And you're more than welcome to come by and check out our live radar feed. But what this allows us to do, as we talk about urban air mobility, it allows us to see everything in the air. Because being able to detect and avoid is a critical element for package delivery drones and aerial taxis. And we have that element. We have that element. So, thank you. So this is how we're thinking about the system itself, the infrastructure system itself. Is we looked at it and we went, well, what's the first thing the population is going to say? One, not over my house, right? Not in my backyard. I don't want drones flying over my house, taking pictures in the backyard.
Not looking in my window.
Exactly. So privacy is an issue. The second is noise. I don't want to hear these things. You know, I hear my neighbor buzzing his little drone, and that's so loud, and I can only imagine how big a much larger drone is going to sound. So that's two: noise, privacy, noise, and then safety. We don't want these flying over parks, hospitals, schools. We don't want them flying over people that are unprotected, especially children that are unprotected. So we came up with the idea, well, let's put them over the roads. Let's just take the road map and raise it up 400, 600 feet. Let's just do that. So you can see here, we're looking at, what if we just take the road map and create a package delivery corridor here and an aerial taxi corridor here. That meets all three standards. One, it's not flying over everybody's house because nobody lives in the road. Two, all of the noise is coming right down on the road, which already has a lot of noise from humming tires. And three, everybody that's within the sidewalk corridor is in a vehicle, typically, unless you're walking downtown. So you're already protected. So we're meeting really the majority of those three criteria. And then we're working on, okay, how do we break this up? How do we make it so that these are safe? That we can assign headings, based on direction, that we can assign altitudes, or that we can assign altitudes based on heading, and then separate the package delivery, because I imagine there'll be 100,000 of those for every 10,000 taxis, right? Just the amount of airspace, amount of usage of the airspace. So while that's a very nice little drawing to show you, I won't bore you with this one, but on August 31st, we actually did come up with kind of our first step. How do we do this? And then on September 7th, we took it a step further.
A little more.
A little more. I do want to show you this video. So what you're going to see here is visually what I've just described. So this is the University of Utah.
Oh, I can see my
Oh, there you go. I promise I won't fly over it.
There's a package coming together.
And now we're going to see the roads populate. So the roads are populating in blue. That gives us our starting point. So as the roads populate in blue, we know that that's where we want to be. Not left of it, not right of it, right on it. So the next thing we need to do is take those roads and raise them up 400 feet. Anytime now. Anytime. There we go. So we take those roads, we raise them up 400 feet. Now these yellow corridors are 400 to 800 feet, just for visual purposes. We did the whole thing, the whole 400 feet. But you can see how far they are elevated above the ground. Now, since this is being designed for travel within these corridors, we wanted to, well, we took the roads out. So we took the highlighted, the blue roads out. But then we're going to input vehicles. So those red dots represent a vehicle. Whether it's a package delivery drone or aerial taxi, doesn't matter. They're just a representation. They are moving. It's almost imperceptible, but if you look closely, they're moving at about 10 miles per hour. That's just what we gave them to start with. So you can see how these follow the designated lanes as they move across the sky, as we design the system. And so then we wanted to see, well, nobody's going to see these yellow corridors in the air. They're not going to be visible. So what would this look like to someone who was standing on a 400-foot tower or flying above them? And that's what it would look like. And we did this in about a week and a half. So I'm very excited with what we can do in a year and a half. And I'm hoping my next presentation will be, maybe I'll even fly you.
So is anybody else in the country doing this kind of work, Jerry?
So we are working very closely with Ohio.
Okay.
Drive Ohio is working on a corridor, very closely with North Carolina. In President Trump's integrated pilot program that he asked the FAA to start, North Carolina is probably in the lead, and we're working with them very closely on what they're doing. My counterpart, Bobby Walston out there, and I are very good friends, and we've been working on this. And Fred from Ohio, we're just kind of holding hands doing this. We have some advantages that UDOT has already put in place and the state has already put in place, that we don't have to build as much infrastructure to get where we need to be. Essentially, I'll put it this way. We have the pieces of the puzzle. All we have to do is connect them. Everybody else has to build those pieces to the puzzle. So we really find ourselves in a very fortunate situation. It's just making it connect. It's just putting the pieces together.
So Megan wants to fly to Vernal next month. Can you make it possible?
We are.
I can fly to Vernal right now, just to be to the airport. So, and that's how we're thinking about transportation in the next 5 to 10 years. There is an industry goal right now for full integration of aerial taxis in 2023. Uber wants to do their first test runs in Dallas and LA in 2021. So this is coming fast. And again, the reason I'm even looking at this is because when somebody comes to us and says, we want to do this in Utah, are you going to be ready? The answer I want to have is, yes, let me show you what we have. Here's how we've been thinking about it. So that's my presentation on aeronautics for the
Very impressive.
last year.
Very impressive. You and Brigitte should come often. She will have the money, you will have the infrastructure, we can work together.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you, Jared.
So glad to answer any questions, but up to none.
6 feet wide.
Any questions?
Oh, I could go on for hours, but we'll do that offline.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. That concludes our meeting. Number 11 is the commission meeting places. Upcoming October 11 to 12 is Vernal, November 15, 16 Moab, and December 14 UDOT Complex. In your folders, you have also the 2019 places to meet. Would you please make sure to take that one with you, and if you have a question, call Shane or myself or anybody that you think that can answer your questions quickly. So that's for next year, 2019. Okay?
Are we,
Go ahead.
excuse me, Mr. Chair. Are we flying to Moab?
Yes, we have a plane reserved for Moab, yes.
Okay, good, because I want to see the new.
Is it gonna swing by St. George on the way?
That's a big swing.
Just asking.
We'll send you one of the tags now.
Any other questions? Shane, Terry, anything? With that, I will now entertain a motion to.
I so move.
Second.
Okay. Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
I didn't
please.
keep it interrupted. My mother would be mad.
That's wired.